Welcome to Connecting to Admired Leadership, where twice a month we explore the behaviors and routines that make great leaders extraordinary. I'm Wes Bender, and I have the distinct pleasure of hosting some of our firm's partners, coaches, and clients to discuss leadership in ways you won't hear anywhere else. Let's dive into this episode and make people and situations better together. So excited to have everyone. We will go ahead and get started. We know our numbers will shoot up as we move through here. We would love to know who's on the call today and where you are from. So please drop that in the chat box. Uh, as we learn who is joining us live today, I want to introduce my guest, Alan Nelson. I can't think of a better person to explore whether leaders ever act aggressively than Alan. Alan's one of our co-managing partners here at Admire Leadership. Spent over 3 decades advising senior leaders through some of their most challenging moments, major mergers, restructurings, crises, high stakes leadership transitions. What makes Alan especially well positioned to talk about this topic is that he's seen leaders at their best and their worst. A lot of the pre-submitted questions that come in talk about that. How do you handle people when they're at their best and their worst? How do we navigate to really show our best? He's been in the room when leaders have had to make incredibly difficult, tough decisions under enormous pressure, coach people through moments when they've crossed the line from maybe assertiveness into aggression, and help them find their way back. He's helped countless leaders figure out how to be forceful and firm without damaging relationships. And what he talks about a lot and helps people with is really manage their own credibility. So, Alan, as always, thanks for being with us to help us navigate this challenging territory. I want to start as we always do. What are you currently loving about what you do? What are you currently loving about what you do?
That's for me.
That's for you.
I'm loving seeing Mary Garrett in the chat. Mary Garrett is a friend of our family that goes back 20 years, and to see her in
That's
the chat
amazing.
is a
That's
personal
amazing.
thrill. What am I loving about what I'm doing right now? I don't know, Wes. I just feel lucky to have clients that, want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And I get to work with really interesting people. Like every day I look at my calendar and go, I can't wait to have that conversation. And so I'm just excited to be doing what I'm doing. I'm excited about the firm and how we're doing. I'm excited about Alex. I'm really excited about Alex. But mostly I'm just excited to, have people who think I'm helpful and to have a chance to help them.
That's good. So on a personal note, I have been in the room and on the direct receiving end one-on-one to watch Alan bring both, I would say, a wisdom of experience and a really nuanced understanding of where the line is between appropriate assertiveness, as we might say in the field note and some of our pre-submitted questions, and what might on the other extreme be maybe some harmful aggression of some
I have a
sort.
harmful aggression in that, Wes? I hope not.
So I'd love for you to just frame this, Alan. Do leaders ever act aggressively? How do we frame this conversation?
You'll notice that Wes didn't answer the question.
That's because you're here to answer questions, not ask questions, Alan.
Do good leaders ever act aggressively? Not on purpose.
Mm,
Yeah, not on purpose. Look, everybody has bad days. Um, I think aggressiveness is almost always perceived as a personal or professional threat by other people. Good leaders don't try to threaten people,
mm,
and they don't try to act in a way that people perceive as threatening. Doesn't mean that, that you don't do it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen by accident. Good leaders are strident. They're passionate about what they believe in. They're willing to engage in all kinds of advocacy. But coercion, the use of power, the brutal use of power, the heavy-handed use of status, intimidation, accusation, public critique and disarming of other people. I mean, these are things that we all perceive as aggressive, and no, nobody does that because it damages loyalty. So, but people do it. People have it as a preferred mode. Like there are leaders out there who act aggressive by design, But I would say that what they're really doing is deploying power and influence in a very direct and authoritarian and draconian way. I wouldn't say that they're engaging in leadership. I would say they're engaging in coercion. And I think there's a difference. I think followership is willful,
Mm,
and that's creating unwillful followership. So I would say that we all get there sometimes, but do good leaders ever act aggressively with intentionally? Not unless they're playing rugby, probably not.
how would one coach a leader to be more assertive or lean towards a more assertive approach if they are naturally aggressive, right? And that aggression may come from a healthy place. The intent, the desire for performance, the desire for the team to be successful across the board. That intent, of course, could be good, but it comes out as aggression. How do you coach somebody to lean more towards an assertive approach?
Well, I think there are different ways to get people there. It depends on, where their aggression comes from. Again, some people it's something that's a mark of pride for them. Um, in which case I think we need to talk about why that matters to them. Uh, so I think for me, Wes, some leaders view like metaphors really matter. We all have metaphors for how we see and how we think about the world. There are people who see the world with a very combative metaphor.
Hmm.
I mean, they believe that it is pugilism and that for me to win, someone has to lose. I mean, it's one way to see the world, but if that's a reason why somebody's being aggressive, then I think that's the thing we have to explore is
Mm,
that worldview really going to get you where you need to go? I would argue, of course, it doesn't because it creates all kinds of hostile people. I mean, it creates all kinds of people who will be actively resistant. Trust me, if you're being aggressive to other people are can't wait for the chance to return the favor. So so you don't succeed until other people really want you to, unless you have total control and total power and influence over a situation, which nobody I work with ever does. If you view the world as a fixed pie and it's a zero-sum game, and like for you to lose, you have to lose for me to win, you're going to be more likely to be interpreted as aggressive because you're going to engage in more aggressive behavior.
yeah.
Because you view organizational life as combat. So I think for some people, we have to explore that. Like, how do they see the world? Like, what's their metaphor for leadership? What's their metaphor for organizations? For other people, I think it's just a question of they engage in verbal and nonverbal behavior that other people interpret as aggressive. It's not often that you talk to somebody who has a reputation for aggression and you say, you realize people see you as aggressive, and they go, of course they do. I mean, most people go, but most people are shocked to hear it, and they don't understand why certain things that they're doing get interpreted as aggressive by other people. So the question, I think, is rather than trying to say, how do you turn down behaviors that uh, that create perceptions and assessments of aggressiveness, which is difficult.
Hmm.
The question is, what can you turn up that can
Mm,
balance that or that can mediate it? And in our view, one of the most mediating variables for aggressiveness is respect.
mhm,
Like if you're trying to treat people with the maximum level of respect, it will be very difficult for you to engage in behaviors that are seen as aggressive.
mm,
Like interrupting is disrespectful. Telling people they're stupid is disrespectful. Yelling at people is disrespectful. Getting in people's personal space is disrespectful. Engaging in uninvited, non-reciprocal touching, slapping people on the back when they can't slap you is disrespectful. Like these are all things that are by nature disrespectful. If you just say, hey, treat people with more respect, let's bring more respect to the conversation, let's bring more respect to the relationships, I think that that probably tips anything that was perceived as aggressive into something that is seen as advocacy, that's seen as assertiveness, that's seen as conviction, that's seen as the things that we want to see in leaders. Like nobody wants, like passivity loses,
mhm.
diffidence loses. Like nobody wants to follow a leader who doesn't know if we're going to make it. And I don't mean having real doubts. I mean, there are moments where we have real doubts. I just mean people who go, gosh, I hope things work out. Like, are you passionate about what we're doing? I'm not sure. Like people want energy and confidence and optimism. They don't want diffidence, passivity, and uncertainty. And so, being assertive and having a sense of conviction about what you're doing really matters. I can be really assertive and have great conviction and still be hugely respectful to other people.
Would you say that's the opposite of aggression is passivity or being, coming at things more passive?
I mean, it's certainly probably technically. That's why it's called pacifism.
Mm-hmm.
But like people don't want their leaders to be organizational pacifists. Like again, are you arguing for my team? Are you arguing for what we're trying to do? Do you believe in what we're trying to accomplish? And are you, again, I'm not saying don't deploy status and don't deploy power and don't deploy resources and don't deploy influence. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is there's ways to do that that people perceive as hostile and threatening. And there are ways to see that people see as being well intended and having a sense of respect to them. And we need to do the latter and not the former.
I love what you're saying in regards to one of the pieces of the many things you just said that I think are powerful is if you're an individual and you're trying to be or act less aggressively, don't necessarily try to turn down aggressive, but turn up assertive things. Because the coaching behind turning up assertive would be true for somebody who is aggressive and somebody who is passive. It would be the same coaching or the same things to turn up. Would that be true?
Yeah, I think we're oversimplifying. We're thinking about these things like if one goes up, the other goes down.
Mm,
There are certain verbal and nonverbal behaviors that are mutually exclusive. So taking turns in conversation is seen as respectful, and talking over people is seen as disrespectful. I don't care what culture in the world you're in.
mhm,
If you're talking over people, you're being seen as disrespectful and really projecting more power and status is what it really is. Is I have the status to control the conversation and you don't. Like that is what it is. And if I take turns in conversation, people see that as being less me having less influence and less status over you and being more deferential to you. And so deference is respect, right?
mhm,
So I don't know if I would say like let's not get wrapped around as the axis pacifism on one side and aggressiveness on the other. So like I think that's overcomplicating it. You need to engage in advocacy and you need to be able to hold people accountable and you need to be able to argue for what's right and you need to be able to try to influence organizations toward better outcomes. You need to be able to have honest conversations with people. You need to be able to confront people. You need to be able to hold people accountable. You need to be able to drive people to greater outcomes. You have to be able to do all these things, but you got to do them in a way that's respectful to other people. Like it's not that hard to figure out. You know when you're being disrespectful.
mhm,
What happens sometimes is our passions get the better of us and we're unintentionally disrespectful.
mhm.
And the problem with being aggressive is it tends to work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has efficacy, especially if you have status.
Mm,
So, if I'm the senior person in the room and I'm aggressive, I guarantee you it's going to be in the short term highly efficacious.
mhm,
In the long term, it's not because anybody who's got real talent is going to have too much self-respect to keep working for me. So I'll lose that talent. And then I'll be surrounded by yes people and I'll be surrounded by people who engage in groupthink and all the kinds of things that happen around, highly draconian and aggressive leaders will start to happen. So so the fact of the matter is that it can surely work. I mean, if you are the strongest person in the room and you threaten people, you'll probably get things done.
mhm,
But none of us would say that's who we want our leaders to be. It's certainly who you want to have teaching your kids. It's not who you would want to have as a neighbor. So we know what respect looks like and we know how to give it. And I think if you focus on engaging in advocacy and engaging in influence and all those things in a respectful way, then I think you're fine.
That's good. So we've talked a lot about, what it looks like on the receiving end of an individual who or how to move ourselves from a more aggressive nature to a more assertive nature, perhaps. What it, how does one deal with someone who is aggressive? So we've talked a lot about from the first person how would we coach people? How would we approach people who are on the receiving end of a very aggressive leader?
Well, the challenge is that when somebody's feeling their oats and being aggressive, uh, that is not the time to have a productive confrontation.
I I have
I mean,
many marriage examples that come to mind for that, but
well, I will leave your marriage to you and your spouse, but I can just talk about life on the New York City subway. I mean, there are aggressive people on the New York
yeah.
City subway, and the last thing you want to do is challenge them on their aggressiveness.
Hmm.
So because when somebody's aggressive and they're especially if they're emotionally aggressive and you challenge them, I guarantee you, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but my personal experience would tell me is that they will become more aggressive.
Mm,
So timing matters, you know. But then I think it's just a question about feedback, Wes, is can you carry the feedback? Can the person hear it? They may not be able to hear it from you. They might have to hear it from a peer. They might have to hear it from a boss. Are they willing, is it practical? If you just go to people and say, hey, you're aggressive, they'll hear that as a negative critique. That will insult them. So what do we really want from them? What would we want them to start doing? What would we want them to stop doing? What's the more of less of in that conversation? That stuff is
mhm,
all meaningful to that. But my short-term solution that I tell people quite often is you just need to exit the conversation.
mm,
Like you can't have that. You can't have that. It's not the time to manage the conflict. So when somebody's aggressive, you leave the room. Taking energy in the opposite direction. When somebody's energy goes up, take your energy down. I think those are short-term strategies, but they don't fix the relationship. Like if you're working with somebody, you've got somebody in your life where there's a consistent pattern of them engaging in aggression and coercion in you with you, you've got a relationship problem.
mhm,
So you need to fix the relationship. And then ultimately what that means is renegotiating the rules of what we talk about and how we talk about those things with each other. And again, the time to do that is not when somebody's being aggressive. So I think it's time to take stock. And, sometimes we've got problems we can solve, and sometimes we got dilemmas we can't. There are some people who they're never going to stop being aggressive. And so then I think the question is okay, how do you manage that? How do you have a functional relationship with that person as long as you can, and then till you don't have to anymore? And then it's about strategies and, a million strategies like, try to have somebody more powerful with you in the room, like avoid find a reason to exit the scene when they're being aggressive, bite on your tongue until it bleeds, sometimes, I'll have leaders who are in a real pickle. They can't exit the relationship. Like they need the job. They're in the role they want to be in. There's a person senior to them or a peer who's highly aggressive. Like they'd have to quit to exit it. And then it's just all about coping strategies, you know, because that person's not open to changing their behavior. But most people, if I go, hey, you came off as aggressive, they go, holy cow, I did. Like, I'm
mm.
sorry. In which case, they're open to that feedback, but not in the moment. Like, they go to somebody and go, you're being aggressive right now. They're going to go, you want to see me get aggressive? So timing matters. But sometimes you're stuck. And if you're stuck, then you got to decide, is that the person you still want to be affiliated with or not?
Yep. You mentioned one example in what you just said, but could you speak further to once there has been an aggressor or aggression has happened and it is damaging to a relationship, how do you mend that relationship? Maybe especially if you're the one who has just was overly passionate, overly aggressive in some situation, some decision-making process. How do you go about mending that relationship?
You got to apologize.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. You got to apologize and be sincere about it. But then ultimately, the relationship is really the pattern of interaction. So mending the relationship is really about you got to change the pattern of interaction. Like you have to change how you talk to people. You
Mhm.
have to bring more respect to those conversations. You have to be more deferential. You have to learn how to advocate where other people don't have to lose. To disagree agreeably with people and get other people to see that like I don't you don't have to be wrong for me to be right. If you don't change the way that you're interacting with that person, it's only a matter of time until they see you as aggressive again because you're probably being aggressive. Now, let's be clear. There are people who are shrinking violets. There are people who have great insecurity. There are people who, if a butterfly flies at them, they're going to think it's aggressive. So like there are like again, people are messy. People are complicated. There are people who are hugely aggressive or draconian and terrible people. And there are people on the other side of the scale who are hugely fragile who believe every act is an aggressive act. Like, well, there's no use in us really talking about those because like they're at the poles. They're outliers. They exist, but they're not what we're probably dealing with. For most people, if you've been aggressive or you have a pattern of people thinking that you come on too strong, which is how people will really say it, to accuse somebody of aggression in workplace is almost, that's in most organizations, that's an HR compliance issue. Say is like they come on too strong, they can be intimidating, If they're very forceful, like that's what your performance review is saying, then before you get written up, you need to explore your patterns of interaction and what you're doing in conversation that causes people to be interpreted that way. And again, there's certain things you should probably stop doing, like stop interrupting people, stop yelling at people, as rest. But treat people with more respect. But what you're really doing when you say mending the relationship is, I would say, you're just engaging in relational repair. And that repair isn't permanent unless you change the pattern of interaction.
So the answer there, the solution is not saying, well, I'm sorry, I'm just a direct person. So sorry about that.
Well, it's a convenient thing, but a lot of
Hmm.
people do that. But I can be direct and be respectful.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm very direct, as you well know. And there have been times when I have certainly been disrespectful and I've gotten the feedback about it. But on the whole, like, just because someone is direct does not mean that they are aggressive. It means they're direct.
Yep.
And there are entire cultures that are highly direct. Like Holland is a very direct culture. Israel is a very direct culture. People don't believe that people in Holland are that like, oh, we've got another aggressive Dutch guy on the team. Like, don't say that. So 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 directiveness is again not necessarily the same. It's a question of how much respect I'm carrying in the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that element of respect is key. We're getting close to our time, but happy to take additional questions from the chat box. I do want to get to this one that came in ahead of time. It's a little long, but I think the context is really good and give you several things to speak to. It says this session describes assertive leaders as being forthright about their wants and needs. In educational leadership, I'm often asserting what I believe is morally right for students, not what I personally want. How can leaders maintain assertiveness about core mission-driven beliefs when navigating a workforce where some employees are disengaged? There's a lot here. The double edge, so he kind of summarizes, the double edge is being too forceful may cause resignations, but not being forceful enough means students suffer.
Hmm. I don't know if there's any easy answer to that question.
Hmm.
I mean, what we're really talking is about is value systems.
Hmm.
You hold a value system that you believe is matters and that you believe matters in that context. And you're working and in that context, there might be other people, the students or the administration around you, that don't share the same value system, or more likely don't organize the values in the same hierarchy that you do. So, it would be unusual for you to believe that, you know, um, pressing children to achieve academic excellence matters and the system doesn't.
Hmm.
But it might make it second and you might rank it first. So, people have lots of values. There are lots of things we think matter. And we are happy when we're in organizations where there's a relatively solid sense of cohesion between what we believe matters and what the institution believes matters. But we might prioritize those things differently, and the people around us might prioritize them differently. So it's a tough call. I mean, I would say that ultimately, though, if you're part of an organization, the organization has an expectation that you're going to honor the organization's values. And if ultimately for you to go to work every day has you believing that you have to sacrifice what you think matters at the altar of what the organization think matters, then if I were coaching you, I would say you probably have a bad fit. But every day we all make compromises, and we make compromises in terms of our value system all the time. We do it with our partners, we do it with our kids, we do it with our colleagues. There are days where I say, CRA admired leadership really wants me to be X, but I really prefer to be Y.
Hmm.
But it and my clients need me to be in Boston tomorrow, so I'm going to Boston tomorrow. So that's a concession of my preference and my value system to what it needs. But there are limits to that. And there can be certainly situations where you go, like, what I think matters and is best is not what this place thinks matters and is best. I think that's a bigger question and that's really a question of, am I in the right spot? Am I in the right place? If
Hmm.
it's really just a question of degree, then I think you got to, ask yourself, what do you really need to show up for? And my view is you're a part of the team first. Like, you got to do what's best for the team. If you're always just doing what's best for you, then you're not really a team player. And there are things that, that's probably harming the effectiveness of the team. we're of course assuming that the team has appropriate moral and ethical boundaries to it. So there are teams, but there are teams that you should not be on.
Yeah. That was just very thought-provoking, and uh, the question of how do you be aggressive about things like major decisions, or you want to be aggressive and you've got huge passion as it relates to family decisions at times, or large organizational decisions, and you want to continue to do that in a way of some type of style that still truly connects with people. I mean, our firm has some very direct people. I mean, it's what makes our firm move and grow and scale and find different solutions. Yet at the same time, we are full of people that connect on deep levels with people too. That ability to balance that style of directedness and then also connectedness at the same time. I just think that's huge for a leader to find that balance and track that balance. I
Yeah,
mean,
and I don't want to equate assertiveness with being direct. I
mm,
mean, it's about advocacy, it's about persistence. Like there's lots of ways for me to be assertive. That doesn't mean that I'm being direct. Like it doesn't mean I'm being highly indirect, but it doesn't mean that I'm in your face. Like I can be thoughtful. I can be reasoned. I can be engaging. I can be fact-based. I can be persistent. I can be gritty around the idea. Like I can be creative. There's lots of ways to be assertive that don't necessarily mean being direct.
mm,
So let's not conflate the two. But at the same time, like I can be all of those things and not care.
yeah.
So again, two different variables that are on different axes. Like the level of caring that you have for people, I would say is unrelated to whether or not you're more or less direct or indirect.
Yeah.
And people want leaders who care about them. And if I care about you and if you care about me, then we have a cohesion that is more accommodating to like I'm going to be more if I'm like if I know you really care about me, you've got my best interests in heart, I'm going to be more willing to subscribe to your advocacy. So when you are assertive and you're engaging in advocacy, I'm going to be more open to influence because
Mhm.
we've got a real relationship than if I think you're just trying to get something out of me.
That's good. All right, let's end here. And I think Sophie can drop in the chat box too, just some links if you want any kind of follow up or anything like that. Um, for those that are subscribed to Alex, and maybe even Sophie, if you can drop in a trial to Alex there too, what would be your suggestion to get folks to have Alex? Alex is our AI executive leadership coach. Help in this particular instance with this particular topic. If somebody's on here and be like, man, I really need to get some learning here or
Well,
move in a new
everybody
direction.
here absolutely has to try Alex. Like Alex is really incredible. And we designed it for ourselves first, and if we're thrilled with it, we would actually other people would be thrilled with it. I think in this kind of thing, Alex is really good as a not as a thought partner, but as a bit of a foil. So if I was concerned that I either could be assessed as being aggressive or I could have a relationship where somebody believes that I'm too coercive, I would be describing the relationship to Alex and be saying, help me think through what are the moves in the relationship that I've probably engaged in that have got us here, and help me think through what I could be doing in the relationship to try to repair it on a long-term basis. And to say, here's how I see it. Assume the view of the other person and help me understand how they see it.
Mm,
Alex is very good in reflecting back another person's perspective, especially if you can describe that person. So most of us, if we come off as being aggressive and that's the feedback, we're surprised. Again, we're surprised. And so the question is one of self-awareness. So assume, Alex, here's the situation. Assume the role of the other person and help me understand how I'm being interpreted and why I'm being interpreted that way. That would be a very interesting use case for Alex.
that would be interesting. I may do that today, actually. Again, we're never able to get to all the questions, especially pre-submitted in ones in the chat box. And Tarun, I see you in there. Sophie's dropped in there if you want to schedule a quick 10 minutes with one of our coaches, learn about your particular circumstance, particular question. Happy to do that too. Alan, any last minute advice, encouragement for the listeners or anyone listening to this recording as well?
Yeah, I've got a great exercise for you. Go through the next 24 hours and try to be as respectful as you possibly can to everybody you deal with.
Oh, I love that.
See
That's
how
good.
that works for you.
That's good. Awesome. Alan, thanks as always. Appreciate your time. And we'll leave the chat box open here for another 5 minutes or so you can grab at any of those links that Sophie's dropped in. Sophie, thank you as well. For everyone joining us live, for everyone listening to the recording, we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Wes. Thanks, Sophie.